It's 2:47 a.m. You're awake. Not because of a noise, not because of a dream you can name. Your eyes just opened, in the dark, and now your mind is running through tomorrow's schedule, an argument from 3 days ago, the sound of your own breathing. You check your phone, the light burns, you do the math on how many hours of sleep you have left. Then you call it what everyone calls it, insomnia, a malfunction, something broken in you that needs fixing, melatonin, a sleep app, a doctor. Here's the disruption. For most of human history, this exact experience, waking in the dead of night, alert, calm, thinking, wasn't a disorder. It was Tuesday. It was every night. Historians have found that before the late 1800s, much of the population in Europe didn't sleep in one 8-hour block at all. They slept in 2 shifts, with roughly an hour of quiet wakefulness in between, and they had a name for it. This is going to change what you think that 2 a.m. wake-up means. Not a glitch in your biology, a fossil of it. The person who found this wasn't a sleep scientist. He was a historian at Virginia Tech named Roger Ekirch. In the early 1990s, he was combing through court depositions, diaries, and medical texts, looking for something else entirely. What he kept running into was language. People referring to first sleep and second sleep as if everyone already knew what that meant. By the time he published his findings in 2001, and later his book At Day's Close in 2005, Ekirch had assembled more than 500 references to this 2-part sleep pattern, spanning England, France, and Italy across 4 centuries. A 16th century French physician wrote instructions for conceiving a child, timed for after first sleep, when rest had settled the body and desire returned. Geoffrey Chaucer used the phrase in the Canterbury Tales in the 1380s, casually as common vocabulary. English court records from the 1600s include witnesses describing crimes they saw during the watch, the waking hour between sleeps. That watch wasn't wasted time. People prayed. They talked with a spouse in the dark, they got up, tended a fire, visited a neighbor a few houses down. Some had sex, some just lay there, thinking, the same way you did at 2:47 a.m. tonight. Ekirch had the documents, hundreds of them, from ordinary households across 3 centuries. But documents only prove people wrote about something. They don't prove the body actually works that way. So one researcher decided to test it, to take a modern human being, strip away every electric light, and see what the brain would do on its own. In 1990, a psychiatrist at the National Institute of Mental Health named Thomas Wehr designed an experiment that sounds almost cruel in its simplicity. He took 14 volunteers and placed them in an environment with 14 hours of darkness a night. No lamps, no clocks, no electric light of any kind, roughly what a person living in December in the 1700s, before artificial lighting, would have experienced every single night for months on end. For the first few weeks, the volunteers slept like exhausted modern people do. Long, unbroken, almost coma-like stretches as if paying off a debt. But by about the 4th week, something shifted. Without anyone telling them to, their sleep split in 2. They'd drift off for roughly 4 hours. Wake for 1 to 3 hours in a state Wehr described as calm and meditative, not anxious, not tossing and turning, and then fall into a second 4-hour stretch before dawn. Blood tests during that waking window showed elevated prolactin, a hormone linked to relaxation, at levels normally seen in states of deep calm, like right after sex or during meditation. These weren't insomniacs. They were, according to Wehr's data, exhibiting what may be the default human sleep architecture, the pattern our species used for most of its existence, re-emerging the moment modern light was taken away. That's not the whole story, though, because if segmented sleep was the ancient norm, something had to kill it, and that something arrived with a name, a date, and a price tag. In 1879, Thomas Edison patented a commercially viable incandescent light bulb. Within a few decades, cities across Europe and North America were wired for electricity, and something Ekirch tracked closely in his research began to vanish from the record. By the early 1900s, references to first sleep and second sleep had all but disappeared from diaries, letters, and literature. Not because bodies changed, because the night did. Gaslighting had already started the shift in the early 1800s, letting factories run later, letting cities stay lit past dusk for the first time in human history. Electric light finished the job. Bedtimes pushed later. Wake times, driven by industrial schedules, and eventually the standardized workday, got earlier. The old middle-of-the-night gap between first and second sleep got squeezed until it disappeared, compressed into the single, uninterrupted block we now treat as biologically normal. But here's where it gets stranger. Segmented sleep wasn't just a European quirk buried in old court records. When anthropologists went looking for cultures still living without electric light in the 20th century, they found something that complicated the story even further. In the early 2000s, sleep researcher Jerome Siegel at UCLA studied 3 pre-industrial groups still living without electricity: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia. If Ekirch's European pattern was truly universal, these groups should have shown the same 2-part sleep with a waking gap in the middle. They didn't. Across all 3 populations, Siegel's team found people sleeping in a single continuous block, averaging just 5.7 to 7.1 hours a night, often less than the modern Western average, and with almost no reported insomnia at all. No one woke at 2 a.m. wondering why. No one had a word for the condition because for them, it wasn't happening. So which is it? Was segmented sleep the ancient human default, as Ekirch's 500 documents suggest? Or a European climate adaptation for long winter nights, as Siegel's fieldwork implies? The honest answer is that both bodies of evidence are real, and they don't fully agree. Which means the natural way to sleep may never have been one single pattern at all. It may have flexed with latitude, season, and how many hours of darkness a body actually had to work with. That's not a small detail. It means the 8-hour, uninterrupted block you're told is the biological gold standard isn't ancient. It isn't universal. It's a schedule roughly 140 years old, built around gas lamps, factory whistles, and eventually the fluorescent office light. A schedule younger than the Eiffel Tower. Which brings you back to 2:47 a.m. lying there. Not tossing, not panicking, just awake, thinking, in the dark. Somewhere in Northern Europe 400 years ago, someone was doing the exact same thing in the exact same hour, in a house with no electricity and no name for what was wrong with them. Because nothing was. They just called it the watch. They talked, they tended the fire, they lay still and let their thoughts move. Your body may not be malfunctioning at all. It may simply be reaching for one quiet hour toward a rhythm it never fully forgot.